The majority of the questions had to do with, how often do these things hit late in the day, and what do you do with them when they're sort of going out of the first hour and are still on for the trade. So the answer to that is, I'm just reading the question as I go. Sorry about that. The answer to that is if they trigger during the day, we've pretty much got those on auto trade. So the setups are put in the night before using conditional orders, and I'll show you how to set those up in a second, just in case anybody doesn't know. And then, we leave those conditions on for the duration, so that if, we're done with the first hour, we walk away from the machine for a few minutes, whatever, and then when we come back, if something triggered, we're in, or if something got us in during the first hour, right, I'm not going to close it out just because the first hour or hour and a half of the day are over with. So a couple times this week, you saw things that were flat on the session, didn't have a big move in either direction, and then by the end of the day, they hit the profit target, right? And then in one case, I had one that by the end of the day, wound up stopping me out. So it doesn't really affect how we're going to handle the trade. It's less likely that we're going to be in a position for a longer time after Labor Day. So after Labor Day, we ought to get back to seeing some decent volume and breadth in the markets, and then we ought to be back to also seeing profit objectives and things hit earlier in the session, or just the trade itself playing out earlier in the session than has been the case with some of these that held on over the course of the day. That's been happening for the last, since the July 4th holiday, really. The volume's been a little on the light side, so it takes a while for things to fully develop. Another question here is regarding how to use the site for hold on one second, let me just get to the site. To use the site to go through prior trading history and what benefit is that, and how do you use that really for maximum benefit. So let me just share my screen real quick, and Eric, we will go through this. Hang on. Okay, so you're looking at Trader Insight. Obviously, all of you know the site. For the XRVs, right, the best place to go always is just down to the videos that are at the bottom of the page. And then if you watch my video, you can always then go back and see, okay, this is how he did it, right? If you weren't in the room, or if the room was over with by the time they played out, this is how Adrian handled the trade, and then compare it to the way that you traded it. So that's pretty obvious, right? In terms of the trading plan archive, so some of you are newer, if you go to the Daily Income Trader page or the Around the Horn page, let's just go to the Around the Horn page. You will find on the page, and some of these graphics are messed up, so I'm going to have to go through there was a style change made to the website, but we'll get that fixed. If you go back to the results spreadsheets, then you can compare. The thing that I would do is I would say go to a date, just select the dates from the archives down here of the trading plan. So let's do August 1st. So here's your trading plan on August the 1st, right? And then I would take the plan. So you can either look here or you can look to the gouge sheet, whichever one. The gouge sheet is the drill down here that shows you, trade by trade. This is what I keep on my desk during the day. But it is also nice, if you're not good at eyeballing support and resistance yet, it's good to get the plan up this way so you can see where the support levels are, the resistance levels, and then where the confluence is. Confluence, again, is going to be there if support and resistance and a pivot line and a Fibonacci retracement all overlap. So let's just look at this one and how I would suggest using the past plans. So you bring up CVS. Make sure that I'm showing you what I think I'm showing you. Okay. So you bring up CVS, and you change your date on your chart back to August 1st, or if you're using a simulator, you can change the date in your simulator to August 1st and trade it out live. And then the first thing that I would do is go back to the day that created it, so that would be July 31st, and now go to your intraday chart. Since you're working through the Income Trading Academy stuff, you're getting ready for boot camp, what you should be focusing on with prior setups is how you go about establishing where you're going to put your stops and you're going to put your targets. So, right, if you look at this, you can see that you've got a couple of different levels that make sense as stop levels. You know that your entry is going to be down, about 64.85, and you want to go through and just start validating what is it about the final move of the session that pushed the stock into the range. So your volume weighted average price for the close, for this big move into the close, down here at 65.13, right? This VWAP is obviously going to be much higher for the session. But here you have, a 65.58 VWAP, right? And then if you look at the, you go back, you look at the trading plan. Okay, Adrian's got to stop at 65.25. So what's he looking at with the 65.25 stop? All right, it makes sense. It's this volume-weighted average price of this last move was down at 65.13. So I wanted to make sure probably that I was just above that, so that price would have to trade through me and then into this level here, right? This is where the closing collapse happened. The last time that we had sort of a gap in the volume by price data. So I was looking at this level as a stop out if price started moving higher, because realistically, if it gets up into here and breaks this line, it undid this, and then if it starts moving up through here, I'm expecting that it's going to land, up in here where this prior volume-weighted average price was, or maybe get up into this range up here. So where'd the stop come from then? Stop was right there. And then, right, you're going to go and you're going to look at your daily chart. And on the daily chart, you're going to try to establish where would your target be. So there's a bunch of places, right, that you can see a potential target. The first place this thing's going to have a likely struggle is going to be here at 64.46. And then probably going to see move down to 63.65. And what you should be doing is just finding all of these and, right, identifying a bunch of what's likely to happen kind of scenarios. Okay. So you're going to get in at 64.85 if you take this trade. And you've already looked at the trading plan, right? And you can see that I've got a target at $64.11. So what you want to do is start picking this apart then and figuring out, well, how did he come up with 64.11? So a good thing to do is, scale the chart so you can actually see what's going on. And then go through and, again, just identify, right, where are these levels. So I was looking back in here. It's typically what I do, and I'm looking for overlaps between closes, right, opens, highs, lows, all this stuff. And when I've sort of captured where a lot of things happen, that's where I'm picking a target. So in your case, the most important thing is that when you're comparing it to the trading plan, you can see why I picked what I picked. And then when you're looking at how this plays out the next day, so I don't know if it's going to hold those daily values into this. So we had 64.12 and then 63.64 was the next layer down, right? Now, when you look at August the 1st, what you should be doing is going through and identifying where things happen. So from the trading plan, all right, what was 50% to the target was 64.43. So our target was 64.11, and 64.43 is the halfway point. Is that right? Yep. So now, you should just look through this and go through and, okay, where was my entry? 50% of the distance to the target, what am I supposed to do? I pull my stop down to break even, 10 cents to the target, I'm pulling my stop down to 50%, at the target I'm out. So when you look at those setup days and you look at the charts as a result, what you want to see is, did you understand why I picked the profit target that I picked? And why was that profit target that I picked better than those other profit targets that I could have picked? Because obviously, look where the stock closed. It closed right where, we had our target on the trading plan. And what factors came into play over the course of the session. So it never saw the confluence area. It never came up into there. As you're looking at these for more advanced entries, right, if you go down your support and resistance levels up here, you can see 65.13, 65.48, right? And then when you look at what happened on the trading day itself, you can see that it didn't really have any kind of a bump at 65.14, but, look here. We had picked 65.48 as a potential inflection point. 65.48, there it is, the day before the trade happens. And then on the trade day, it comes up, and if you're going to take that as a possible early entry for the setup, your gold, you got in, significantly earlier than down at the trigger price. The trigger price was set at 64.75. So from 64.75, I mean, you're really, you've got quite an extension there. 75 cents of room, and that's what you see in the guys in the first hour trading pit, right? All those guys who have been through the boot camp and who are calling, the early entries on that. That's how they're using this plan. So that's what you should be doing when you start going through those prior results. Just sort of pick them apart, and you can also look at the spreadsheets. You can look at the spreadsheet of the results and go back and see how did Julie trade them, because Julie's the one trading the around the horn plan. In the morning, I focus on XRV and Baltimore Chop and Scalper. How did Julie trade this thing? Where did she wind up on the trades for that session? And then, compare it to what you come up with. I'd like for you guys to use the simulator so that you can actually run through them, in real time or in 2 or 3 times speed, and just really get the hang of it. But it's also good enough to just go back and pull it up in your trading software and do sort of a bar-by-bar analysis of, do I understand the rules? Do I understand the logic? Right? And then if, as you're going through the Income Trading Academy and getting ready for boot camp, if you have things that don't make sense, that don't line up for you, then just pick up the phone and call me. You can send me an email describing the problem, but then, let's get on the phone and just talk it through and make sure that everybody's on the same page. Okay? So that's that question. And then once again, we have the sort of obligatory question about setting up trades for Monday. Would I mind going through them? And absolutely. So we have got, let me see if that person is in the room. Hold on a second. No. Okay, so you'll be watching this on the recording. I know if these meetings aren't at a good time for people. Maybe we can change when we're doing them, so that people can see these live and not have to, go home with unanswered questions or watch it on a video and have unanswered questions. So just let me know if this isn't working for anybody, and we can always change it up. So we have XRV setups in a few stocks. This one's not one of them. This is just on here. Oops, wait a minute. I didn't change the date. Okay. We have XRV setups again. These are the ones that I've filtered through. We can see we've got good range of motion in everything except for got an integrated oil and gas here that I'm not crazy about. And I'm not super nuts about the energies in general when they come up here. They're a little bit harder to trade, and especially for some of you newer guys, they're not, that can be sort of a wild ride. But here we've got the SIBO again is on. So if we have an entry up at 102.75, right, then initially I'm going to hold a stop down below here. Okay, so either 101.92, or maybe I'll even get into this volume here so that it has to eat back into this this range a little bit before it gets me out. So does everybody see the logic of why your entry threshold is going to be up above here, up above 102.75? So the way we're going to set that up is if the last price is less than or equal to, let's say, 102.85, then I'm going to buy stop limit 102.75 stop with a 102.95 limit. And then I'm going to set up a conditional order for a stop loss at 101.77. And then we have TLB. Okay, this had 658,000 shares. It's kind of tough because the volume's off on everything, right? So, but it did go out very strong into the close. So 71.50 is going to be an entry on this one. And initially, I'm just going to look to get down. Well, it could go down here. All right. So 70.69 is probably the better stop, or we could go up underneath here. So I think on Monday what I'm going to do is when the market opens, right, if this support here holds, then I'm going to go ahead and move that stop up underneath this range, and we'll talk about that in the first hour Trading Pit Live. Nutrisystem, all right, 38.34. So this one has, if we get up into here, then we've got a pretty wide swing that we're giving it, and we're getting back up into this leg that's moving higher, right? If you want to check it, do your VWAP. Now, it doesn't do you any good to do a VWAP on the last leg of the move because that's obviously going to be below here since it's only measuring this. So if you measure the entire day, you can just see that the stop for the session that we identified as a support and resistance stop is above the volume weighted average price for the whole day. So if it breaks above there, I definitely want out. And then here too, during the trading session, if we find that price stabilizes under here, I'll move the stop to that level. All right, so if I can see right out of the gate that there are two places right there that I'm looking to move the stop if we get an open that consolidates and then breaks lower and gets us in. So if it consolidates under either one of these lines, that's when I'm moving that stop loss. TTCT, you have the obvious stop up in here, right? But that's extremely wide for this stock. So really, what I'm going to look for on Monday is, once this breaks down underneath the closing range, because it did get this push up, sometimes that means it's not going to be the greatest setup for Monday morning. That the selling pressure was gone on this one. But, the other thing we have to look at is the buyer, the buying pressure that came in going into here looks like it happened on relatively low volume compared to the sell-off. So it could be the case that the seller was just done and now it's drifting back up into the range, or it could also be the case that this got too far extended from the volume weighted average price on the session for these guys, right? And that they're trying to see if it drifts back up into here, and if it hits back into this zone, are they going to start selling it again? Or on Monday, if it opens here and we establish a new VWAP, are they going to start selling into the lower part of the range? So this one I'm just going to sort of be careful with on Monday and make sure that what we're seeing is what we think we're seeing. And then on the long, on data here, same kind of thing. You can see where the price activity was. You can see where support and resistance formed, and you have a good logical place to look for a stop out, right, if it comes back in at you. And then obviously what you're going to do for the Monday session in terms of establishing targets is you're going to look at those pivots. I'll put the pivots up there for you. So let's see what. Okay. So what we see here is that CBOE, this is going to be a long trade, right? So I'm looking at a 103.65 first resistance. That's going to be my target on that. That's less than $1, obviously. That's 90 cents. So I'm going to use 103.65 first resistance, going to be my target. DLB, this is also a long. This one went out 71.50. And we can see here the target is at 71.97. So I'm very likely going to be pulling this one off the list for Monday. So this is how I go through and make my final cuts on these, because that's a very tight profit objective. 38.34 down to 37.68. Right, so this one is targeting support on Nutrisystem. 37.68 is going to be the first target that we have. Again, less than $1, but the range has not been as fantastic over the last few days as it has been. This one, the pivots are going to be a little tighter, right, because that central pivot is high plus low plus close divided by 3, and then the pivot minus the prior session's high is what's going to give us S1, and in this case 39.43. So it's still got decent range. So if this one, this is why this one kind of intrigues me. If this one comes in on Monday morning and they start selling again, we've got room for, again, about a 90-cent move down to our profit objective. And then finally we had DATA. This one would be a long, and 109.94 is that resistance level, so I'll be using a $1 target instead. So it's pretty close anyways. I mean, it's only 20 cents, but I just find if it's stretching more than $1 from the prior session's extreme, it makes sense to just bring that profit objective down and sort of have a soft target at the dollar point, and then if it keeps moving through, I'll let it go up to the pivot. If it doesn't keep moving through, I'll just peel it off at $1. Okay. Let me just pop back into the room. And let's see, does anybody have any additional questions or anything that you need cleared up? Obviously on Friday, the Scalper plan did really well too. Nobody's asking questions about Scalper. That kind of worries me. Probably says you're not looking at it, but Apple tends to behave really, really nicely on that Scalper trading plan. So if you haven't looked at that and you're in just sort of looking over what we do, then make sure that you also pull that up, because it's amazing sometimes when that thing hits, it really gets into those ranges and trades right through them, just clips them over and over again. And when it doesn't hit, it just doesn't do anything. So, it's not anybody's favorite strategy, because it's going to require sort of work in the machine to get to where you want to go. But I do recommend just taking a look at it. And I know some of you are working with simulators. I can recommend some simulators to you that are very inexpensive and work really nicely to let you go back through and trade these things and practice. Just practice is what it takes. I still work with simulators pretty frequently, right? I'll sit here on the sofa sometimes watching a movie or something, and at the same time I'm doing a simulation of Apple just day after day after. I'm going to do all the mornings for the last 30 days, 45 days. Let's simulate them. First hour, I'll run it at 2 or 3 times the speed, get it up to, where I can cover the first hour of trading in 15 minutes, and I think it's a real benefit. But so far, nobody's looking to simulate yet. But anyways, that's that. If you're going through that Income Trading Academy, again, like I said, call me if you have questions. If you're confused about something, don't stay confused, because that's gonna make for a mess when you get to Miami. I want everybody on the same page. When we go down to Miami Beach, I want to make sure that everybody is looking at this thing with the same same set of expectations, same ideas about how this stuff works, and then we can just really dig into it. Reese, hopefully you'll be in Miami Beach. I'd be stoked if we saw you there again. The simulator, Cindy, that I'm using is called Trading Sim. All right, so I like this one quite a bit. You can go through and you can change your date. I don't know if they would have Friday's trading already. Maybe they do. You can change your symbol, right? And then, let's say you had the scalper plan. Right here was Friday, so we had shorts from 215.81 down to 59, 59 down to 38, 38 to 13. So 215.81 to 59. Then you can go into your simulator. Right, you can go through and draw the lines a little heavier so you can see them. And then, you would just, on the simulator, then you go down 59, and then 38, and then 13. So you have to click again on this thing. And now you're going to go to 59, 38. I really like this for the scalps. I mean, and then your final one was down at 13. Be a little higher, but I just want to show you how this works. And then, let's say you do your typical share size. And oh, here we go. Here's the next day, right? So the next day opens, and it opens high in the range. And then we can go and we can adjust the speed from normal speed. We can go all the way up to like 5 times the speed. And then as the day moves on, now you're just going to look at the scalper lines, right? And if you get a trigger, you got a trigger. If you didn't get anything, you got nothing. But you can sit here then and work on the discipline and work on how to use these trading plans. Let's turn the time of sales off so we just get a bigger chart. And you can go all the way up to like an insanely fast, where it's doing 60 times the speed. Right, but what you're looking for in this case is this move down through 15.81. Okay, so here we go. So if it was coming down, right, now you're waiting. You had that check mark. You had to move down through the thing and back up. So now you've got a live trade pending. So I always like to see it sort of dip in and then come back above and then make another push down through. There's plenty of videos on how to handle that part of it on the site. Now you're just waiting to see, is it going to move down into that range? And then you can handle these as market orders, or you can handle them as stop orders, right? So you can say 215.81. So then you see your order goes live, and boom, it's got you filled, right? And then from there, you just work the scalper bands. All right, so now as it comes into this band, you'd be taking it off. I don't recommend doing this at 5 times speed because you'd never get the orders off in time. But as it moves into the next band, you peel it off, then you sell it again, right? Which you're not going to want to use these limit orders, or the stop orders. You're just going to want to use limit orders. And then right now it moved through there. So in normal speed, you would have been out and you would have been back in again. So you would have got out when it touched the line, and then you would have got back in when it came down through the line from above. Okay, and then over the course of the, this is how you want to spend your evenings. I do quite frequently, right? Go through and, I've even got my 10-year-old looking at this stuff, right? You just go and you close it out, you just buy. Position is neutral then, and it shows you the history of what you did. It's just a nice way to practice. It's a nice way to, do especially some of these scalp trades that even you guys who have been around this stuff for a while, you go into the room and in the morning and you wind up trading 100 shares of Apple, and that's how you're practicing it. And that's a rough way to do this. It's just a lot easier to go in and do a simulator. So I don't have any kind of relationship with these guys, except that they let me access statistical stuff that, where we're doing some number crunching on decision making that people do. It's all anonymous, right? So they've got a lot of users, and I don't know who the users are, but we look at trading decisions, and we're trying to do a big multivariate analysis of variance on why people do what they do. But that's the simulator. So if you're interested in it, I recommend it. It's nice, and for $250 or whatever it is a year, $250 or $290, something like that, it's probably worth doing. That's it. That's all I have for today. So if we're done, no other questions, then adios, and I will see everybody on Monday morning. And thanks for being here today. Thanks for taking the time to hop in on a Saturday. Okay, take care, guys.